Hello, and welcome back to Unexpected History. It's like regular history, just unexpected. Today's video is about the worst year in recorded human history, and we're not talking about 2020. But first, take a minute to subscribe to the channel, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and a share. It really helps us out. You might think that 2020 was the worst year ever, and it was definitely a bad year for humanity, without question. After all, the COVID pandemic hit its peak. A pandemic is something most people living today had mercifully never experienced before, although much the same could also be said about the virus, which has killed almost 5 million people worldwide thus far. The resulting recession, from which we've only just recently started to recover, dwarfs all other recessions in history in its severity, with the exception of the Great Depression. But 2020 wasn't even close to being the worst year in history. The dubious honor of worst year ever belongs to the year 536 CE. You might ask why that is. Well, listen on. Imagine you wake up one spring morning in 536 CE to find a mysterious fog covering your village, which is confusing because fog isn't normal for this time of year. It looks more like late twilight than early morning. Although you have no way of knowing this, that same fog is covering most of the northern hemisphere, giving those that experienced it the realization that there's just enough light visible for you to notice just how dark it still is. Again, although you have no indication of it, this fog has extended as far east as China, where history will report summer frosts and even snow. The temperature in Europe drops by as much as 35 to 37 degrees. The temperature drops, coupled with severe droughts, result in massive famines around the world. As much as 1/3 of Europe's population dies. In China, some regions will lose around 80%, and Scandinavia will lose around 75 to 90%. Economies around the globe will be devastated for decades, if not centuries. About 5 years after the fog began, Europe's troubles were further deepened by the first recorded incidents of what became known 8 centuries later as the Black Death. The death toll of the plague of Justinian is unknown with any certainty, but it affected most of Europe, the Mediterranean basin, and much of the Near East. One other effect of the mysterious fog was to cause a decade-long downturn in world temperatures, such that it was the coldest decade on record in over 2,000 years. While no one knew the cause of the fog at the time, scientists today believe it wasn't an actual fog, but volcanic ash. Most sources cite a massive volcanic eruption in Iceland, others say Krakatoa, in 535 CE. All sources agree that if it was a volcano, it was most likely one of the biggest eruptions in history. The effects were exacerbated by 2 more eruptions in 540 and 547. These dates were determined by examining tree rings and ice cores collected at various sites around the world, both of which collect environmental conditions over years, decades, centuries, and millennia, which can be read with some precision by those who know how. The Little Antique Ice Age, as it's now known, lasted from the spring of 536 until 660 CE in Europe, and it would last about 20 years longer in some parts of Asia. It's probably not a coincidence that it was this time period, a time when people had trouble seeing their shadows, even at midday, that began what we now call the Dark Ages. That's all for this video. Recency bias and personal experience are real things, but personally, I don't think anyone can objectively say 2020 was worse than 536. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. Please like and share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more unexpected history, just like this. We'll see you in the next one.